Okay, right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Today, I'm going to be painting in acrylics. That's the scene I'm going to paint. I should say normally I work for my own photos, but to do a coastal scene where figures are quite prominent, I found it quite difficult. It's funny because I got loads of coastal scenes, but the figure aspect was quite difficult. So this isn't my photo. So I'll change it a little bit maybe. And just to let you know, I'm working in acrylics. So this is the brand I'm using tonight. It's by Royal Talons and it's their Amsterdam range. I use a combination of the student grade and the artist quality. It's called Expert. And I'll show you my palette. Okay, so that demonstrates the paint's quite thick. It's considered heavy body, so it's yeah, it's quite luscious to put on. I'm working on canvas, and I'm working on it's a stretch canvas. It's 24 by 30 inches. I have done probably a previous painting on here, so there's a little bit of texture coming through. I also use some fairly large brushes. These are actually De La Rowney Skyflow brushes. They vary. I've got larger ones, but for tonight, I'm gonna, yeah, so that's a 2-inch, 2.5 inch, there's a couple of 2 inches, and they go down kind of fairly small. So I've been using this one a bit recently. This is like really small for me, but I just aim to do a little bit more in the way of drawing tonight. So I should say also, I have water, a few pots of water. I've got a mixing tray that I'll occasionally show you the mixes I'm using. Although there is a lot of kind of mixing on the canvas, as you'll see. Okay, so we'll dive in. I'll just turn this around. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, normally I'll dive in, but I'm going to just start off with a little outline of the scene, really to establish where the figures are going to go, where the boats are going to go, and basically how the scene's going to look. So I've got my little 1/2-inch brush, flat head brush. I've got some purple, and really what I want to do is just establish things like where this main figure is going to go, because there's this lovely kind of diagonal to his shape. And it might be best if I hold this a little bit while I'm drawing it. So I've not painted the scene before, so that's how I like it, because I'm going to be surprised, hopefully. Hopefully it'll be a pleasant surprise rather than a nasty surprise. Okay, and so his head's about there. When I draw, I quite like this very kind of matter-of-fact A to B idea, because I don't want it to be too neat and tidy. And even when I get it in, I'm likely to change it when I start throwing paint on. And just sketch that along. Something I've done with demos, probably up until now on Zoom anyway, is I've been more interested in, I guess, showing how expressive I paint, but I'm gonna just slightly calm it down tonight, because I've done a bit more drawing in my paintings recently, so there's going to be a little bit more in the way of a finish to this one. Okay, and so there's a guy here. What I tend to do is, if I do drawing in my paintings, I'm kind of try to get it out of the way quite quickly, so I'll time it. And also there's a initial shock of doing a Zoom demo. So this is a little warm up for me just to get used to the idea that people are watching me paint. Okay, that, yeah, his head is a bit longer, something over there. And the boats are going to be around about there. So years ago, what I would have done is sketch this out very, very precisely, and then spend probably a few weeks just coloring it in. So hopefully it'll be a little bit more interesting than that. Okay, so that red thing comes out a bit more. So don't really have to worry about the cottage too much. Yeah, this can be tricky because I've got obviously the computer stand is slightly going to hinder so not a lot of stuff's going to happen on this side. And right, so we've got these two figures seated over here. Okay, so once I've done the sketch, what I'm going to do is try and find a large area to kind of get my paint arm going. So I'll start with my largest 2.5 inch, just dip it in water. And I think what we'll do is, yeah, I mean, I could do the wall. Yeah, we'll do the wall because there's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray over here. So I can almost spin around with that color. So what I want to do is create an interesting gray. So I'll use some burnt sienna, some yellow ochre, some blue. So I've got a few different blues here: cobalt, cyan, maybe a bit of violet as well, and a bit of green. And I want to kind of mash these together. I'll use a bit of white as well. I don't want too much of it, but just use a bit of that. And what I'm trying to do is, obviously I want it to go kind of like a slate gray, but I don't want to over mix it. I want to try and get the white as diluted as I possibly can, so it doesn't go streaky, but I don't mind the colors going streaky. And because there's quite a bit of this color around, I mean, probably something like that is pretty good just to start off with. And we just want to do, because it's very textural, maybe do some zigzags like that. Okay, so the white's coming through a little bit. It's also a little bit bland for my liking, so let's get a bit of orange, bit of yellow ochre. Again, mix it into the mix that I started with. Bit of green in there as well. Yeah, so what will happen is there'll be these little shots of the orange coming through. And at this stage, that's kind of what I want to showcase, a little bit more interest with the color and a few kind of crisscrossy marks, a bit more in the way of ochre and yellow on this side. So what I do is I kind of just dip in to the color and just apply it. So that's overshot the mark. So I've just picked up a bit more green and I can just run over that a little bit. The thing about acrylic, that's going to dry a little bit darker anyway. So you kind of want a little bit of this color flaring out a little bit. And obviously, if I then load some proper gray on top of that in a few places, I'm going to have little hints of this color coming through. So a bit more in the way of blue. And the other thing, obviously, this is where the figure is going to go, but we'll just drag some of this color in to some of these other component parts. And eventually it's going to go a bit greener because we've got a bit of a cliff and some other colors coming through there. So I very much like this idea of kind of marks next to each other, certainly to start with, maybe the odd elongated stroke. I'll leave a few gaps as well. And we'll just maneuver around. So just want to add a bit more green in. So I've got Phthalo Green, and this is, it's something like Brilliant Green. And it's tricky because essentially I pick up my green and then I might dip in a bit of purple, bit of burnt yellow, maybe a bit of orange. So it still goes green, but like I say, there's just going to be this hint of something else coming through. So that's going to be a dark area, which I shall think about doing something about fairly soon. There's some green just on this side, just in here. A few marks there. Okay, well, just before I add that dark in, just want to go again to my little mix. Just add more white with it because I just want it to transition into a slightly lighter shade. Just going to put some more blue with it and some yellow. And yeah, so yeah, just want a little variation there. And we'll make some marks over here as well. Just get the blue going a little bit more. So it's all about that gray I started with and transitioning to some other colors. Obviously in the photo, this is quite a light area, but I'm gonna just hold off on going really light to start with because I want to create a little idea of, okay, you say that and then it goes really light. I just want to create a little bit of depth with some dark. Yeah, so just wanted a subtle difference. Hopefully you can just about make out there's something of a difference there. Okay, so again, maybe just get this gray in a couple of areas and just in here and over here. Yeah, and this kind of runs into the boat as well, the two boats. Maybe just transition it with a little bit more yellow. So again, I mean, if you use a big brush and you've got a few different colors, as you drag it, those colors kind of break up a little bit and you get a bit of a variation in the color. Didn't want that yellow coming through too much. And just over here. So this is going to be very light, but again, what we want to do is just maybe add some of these strokes because it's going to be more, just slightly more interesting as I put light on top of this slightly more varied. Okay, so another thing I'm quite keen to do is leave a couple of spaces. I've still got this color that I can potentially use, but I'm just, I'm really keen to get into some of the stronger color from this guy's t-shirts. There's a lovely bit of pink there. And so I think we'll put the green in next, and then we'll think about the darks and the blues and what have you. Okay, so I could use this same brush, but I think actually I'll go down a brush size. So this is a 2-inch. Okay, so when it comes to the green, it's kind of dark here, and then it's light at the top. So we'll look for the dark first. And so it's kind of like a phthalo green. We'll put some deep violet with it, bit of burnt sienna. Again, just use my mixing tray for that. So it comes up really dark. I'll put a bit of white in it. So I'm just starting a slightly different section of green. And once I've created my green, I'm just going to dip into a couple of other colors, because when I drag it, I just want to make sure there's a certain level of interest, or maybe not. Okay, well, that's way too much. With a lot of competition, I just want to make this slightly more interesting, which is why I wanted a few of those other colors to come through, because I didn't want just a pristine green. So that's a bit better. Okay, so we can lighten that green up now, and the top bit will be, to some extent, fairly flat. But it's going to hopefully still be quite a strong green, because I'm really thinking I'm going to lighten some of it. Okay, so we can just literally drag that along there like so. Just break it up a little bit. Just a couple of little marks there. While I've got this color, I could even maybe make some inroads into creating some of the creases. So while the paint is still flexible, it's quite good if you do want to then go into it, but you've got to be quite definitive. Normally, people would wait for it to dry and then go into it. But as long as you load up quite a bit of paint on it, it's going to just dominate the base color, or the color I just laid down. Because what I want to do is eventually lighten that up even more. And while I've got this green, it's quite a sunny day, so some of this green is just going to be reflected in. It's not only that, it's just the only thing is I don't want that to be in isolation too much. I want maybe some of that green to come through. Okay, so we could potentially think about these lovely kind of fisherman's trousers he's got, because that's a really interesting color. And I'm very, very tempted to use this brush, but load it with, again, what will potentially be the kind of dark area. Put some of this green in his hair as well. So what we want to do is transition that color into a kind of goldy, mustardy type yellowy color. So purple, burnt sienna, lots of yellow ochre, bit of orange. We'll see what we can muster, because this color will also double up for the skin tone as well. So if we do that, so I kind of think half the interest when someone looks at your work is people trying to figure out how you created color, some of the color schemes. So I've already got a little hint of orange and yellow within the dark area of the crease. So initially when I put it on, it looked a bit strong, but actually it's calmed down, and this color should relate to it now. Yeah, so it kind of relates a little bit more. Hopefully that color relates to that. It's one of the things when you do something figurative, you don't want lots of isolated areas. I mean, eventually that's what you'll get, but I quite like the idea of some sense of it's all part of the same image. Okay, so that orange may be a little bit strong, but I'll kind of persevere with it. I can also go back into the green just to, because it probably should be warmer there, and it should start to go a bit cooler on this side. Going to keep an eye on time as well. I'm assuming we're going to have a little break halfway through. Okay, so we can go maybe dark there. So I want a nice elongated kind of stroke, mainly for his legs, with a few breaks in it. Okay, so I can think about the yellow now, or this is quite a valuable color, so I'm going to use it in a couple of other places. So for example, his skin tone. So I've got these, I've got that, I'll put a bit of yellow with it. And we'll just do one mark like that. Okay, so if it's too dark, just put a bit of yellow in it and just drag that. And I'm deliberately doing it while it's still wet, so the color just transitions a little bit. And again, in the photo, it's probably not as rich as that, but because I'm doing a painting and it's an acrylic painting, so I know the color is gonna dull down a little. I'm deliberately making sure that the orange or the yellow shoots up a little bit more. Okay, so this guy next to him, and I can use this color for his skin tone over there. Okay, we've got a couple of figures here. Yeah, just going to put a tiny bit of magenta in this just to make them a little bit, you're hardly going to notice, but I'll feel better for slightly changing the color. One thing I don't like is you find one color and then you just use it everywhere. So I just want to change it a little bit, even if it doesn't really notice. Yeah, so obviously I'm hoping these are in the right place. Okay. Again, just thinking, what else can I use? Because I've used a bit of red there, it's actually quite a good color for the bucket as well. So we've got a square bucket here, which is kind of like an off red. So that will probably do the job, but I'll just pick up maybe a bit more. So that's pyro red, bit of orange, bit of yellow ochre. So this is what obviously happens. It goes messy. The only thing is, for this stage, that's exactly what I want. When I start to bring it forward a lot more, I'll just use a palette knife just to skim that color away a little bit. So we'll try this color out first. It's kind of in line with the boat there, so we'll just drag that down. Yeah, so I get this lovely messy kind of burnt orangey flavor coming through. And we'll just darken one side of it a little bit more. Yeah, maybe a bit more red. There's a couple of little things in regards to, okay, so that's very solid. That's quite solid. Some of this is very solid because I've just started out with that, but some of it kind of crackles a little bit. And the reason for that is that's pretty much it, other than highlighting it. But some other areas I want to go in and maybe bring it out a little bit more. So I'll crackle. Basically, some marks you go in firm and other marks you just gently skim it. It's one of the things I've noticed when I did realistic painting. You literally hold the brush like a pen or pencil, and you're forever kind of tarting the thing up. But when you try to be a bit more expressive, you'll notice you'll hold the brush further back, and sometimes you'll go in firm, sometimes it'll just be this very, very gentle skim, on the understanding that you've got enough paint on your brush to do things like that. If any of that makes sense, hopefully it does. Okay, so we've got a boat here and it's orange. So again, in fact, what I've done is that they should come in a bit more, but I quite like that spacing. So I think we'll stick with that. So that needs to go orange. It's in shadow. So again, I'll show you. Sometimes this is better than the painting. So I wanted to go more orange. So that's all I do. And I want to kill the color a little bit, maybe put some green into it and some yellow ochre. And again, we're looking for almost 2 or 3 drags. I might bring in a little bit. We'll see how it goes. One thing I quite like is, that's way too strong. I quite like getting it in the wrong place. It just makes it interesting as you start to condense the painting into something more finished. And you move things around, you've got the aftermath of that color maybe still lurking underneath. And it just makes for a slightly more interesting painting. The only thing is I have to assume that a lot of people could probably just paint that as a photographic reproduction. But I'm fairly keen on trying to do something that's going to make it quirky, I suppose. Okay, this guy in the pink shirt. So there's a guy there that might be a bit too messy for it. So we'll just put that to one side. So if I do his pink shirt, then there's a little red boy there. There's a couple of reds at the back there. And we'll put the pink in. So, this is where it's quite important not to think of that as a human being to some extent, or that as a human being, but how colors relate to each other at this stage. Because that pinky purple, so I'm not trying to, there's a little bit of, so I've got an opera rose there. I've just picked on that and a little bit of purple, but the colors are corrupt. So when I drag this, some other color should come through, like a burnt sienna. Yeah, so I get a bit of burnt sienna, there's a little bit of purple there, a bit of deep violet, which just makes it look a little bit more interesting, hopefully. And then we'll make it go a bit more red on this side. So if I go for some really strong, vibrant color, that's gonna just stand off from some of the more kind of muted grays. There's orange in that gray, so it's gonna be slightly stronger. Okay, so there's an awful lot of blue. I think we'll put the blue in before I put the yellow in, because there's a lot of coverage. I'm gonna go back to my dirty brush. It actually fell into the water as well, into one of my pots, so we'll just, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so what I want to do is transition that into more blue. We'll just utilize, yeah, so we'll put some blue here. Yeah, for this big container, and for that one as well. So the blues vary. This has got more cobalt, this has got more maybe cyan. We'll go for this one first. And obviously I'm using a dirty brush because I don't want a perfectly lovely cyan blue coming through. So cyan blue, we'll put some other blues in. So I've got a phthalo blue, a mucky deep violet, and some burnt sienna. And in fact, that's going to go quite dark. So you can see there's some streams of color there. I'm hoping it's going to do something, obviously, when I drag it. Yeah, so a little bit. And we'll pick up a bit more in the way of color there. Okay, so that's quite strong. So a bit of yellow ochre. So I've got a little pool of blue. I just know I'm going to use a lot of it. So, and that's going to probably transition into other things as well. So it can go too blue or a bit too yellow ochre-y. Okay, and it should be a bit darker there. Just look for the light, slightly light. It's not really strong light, but it will be, yeah, lighter than maybe what's around it. Yeah, so this is going to be slightly larger, unless I bring yeah, I'll just make it a slightly larger box. Okay, so I'm deliberately looking for these variations. That's definitely a deliberate choice. Only because I imagine what maybe someone else would do. I play pointless in my head with regards to painting. What would most people do? And if you come up with a slightly obscure answer, you're going to probably conjure up something a little bit different. It's not important that this looks like a box shape or that looks rounded to start with. If anything, it would be better to break up shapes as much as possible. Okay, a bit more in the way of purple. And this will almost double up as, yeah, maybe, yeah, a bit too light. I thought maybe for the shadow, but yeah, I don't think that's going to be a dark enough shadow. Okay, there's a couple of gaps, obviously. I'll fill in some of them, but I'm quite keen to leave some of the base color. The base color, by the way, it's white with burnt sienna and deep violet. I always try to think of some interesting base colors. Okay, so yeah, just got to be a little bit careful here because I've got to consider my focal point. Okay, so this is where I definitely have to draw. When I say draw, you know what I mean. I'm just assessing how big that is and how this comes in. And if it comes in, it's kind of going to slightly, yeah. So he actually maybe needs to be a bit taller because he's going to be bigger than what I imagined. Okay, so a bit of dark there. That t-shirt is going to be dark. I'll probably do that next. So that t-shirt is very different from that blue. Yeah, so we're going to go just add a bit of, I've added a bit of light purple in. It's quite a neutral shade, something like that. In fact, that's not too bad because I imagine the yellow going in with the red and the, I've kind of got the perfect traffic light sequence in terms of a painting. So in the photo, that t-shirt is a lot darker, but I don't want it overly dark. I'll put a touch more dark, maybe around it. I'm not keen on just bombarding burnt umber. So I'm quite keen for these colors to be showcased certainly at the start of a painting or at this stage, because they will eventually calm down. So that's quite a neutral, almost flat dark. I've just used it for his hair. And while I've got that, I might as well use it in a few other places. Maybe around there. Okay, we've obviously got this plank of wood. That's going to be a lighter blue. I'll get to that, obviously. Yeah, we got some dark shadows around these figures, so we can block those in now. And just over here. So quite like thick paint, and it looks especially impressive in the flesh, but unfortunately this is a Zoom demonstration, so yeah, you won't be able to, you'll just imagine. Okay, again, this is going to be dark, but rather than just a flat dark, we'll maybe add some blue, maybe. So I'm quite keen, if I pick up the blue, I'll go back to my original, whatever that color is, and just introduce colors into each other. And yeah, we've got the shadow underneath this bench. I really like the definitive nature of a flat brush. You pretty much lay it on and it will kind of sledgehammer a mark in for you. And there's a shadow over here. And just so we're formulating where the window's roughly going to go. Okay, so don't like doing even things. So it's got to be slightly off. Bit more in the way. Sorry. Might be jogging the thing a little bit. Okay, so as you do more of the painting, you find these little gaps which you can just fill in. So this bloke looks incredibly odd at this stage, but trust me, he may look even odder before the end. So she's got a blue shirt on. This is going to be dark around this guy's face. Again, I can just pick up what's currently on my mixing tray and use that. So I deliberately didn't have an edge. You can't really see the edge of the building against the rock because I like the transition of it. Just a bit more blue. And we'll just fill in where the shadow is. It produces a nice little stepping stone for the boats. And just here, I've been painting all day today, and I've been taking my time on the paintings I've been doing, and obviously this is a demo, and I'll soon realize it's a demo, and I'll start to speed up. Unless, I don't know, I think this is fairly quick so far. Okay, so that's all going to be blue. Okay, and we'll just put the shadow in for the boat. So this shadow color has kind of got a nice bluey, purpley tinge to it. And again, in the photo, that's very dark, but we don't want it obviously too dark. Just block that in. Yeah, so that needs to come in, and yeah, this color will also double up for this lady's jeans. Just make them a little bit lighter. Yeah, so just sometimes I just use the edge of the brush, pick up the color, put it on my mixing tray and just grind it in a little bit. Sometimes it goes really light like that. The reason why I'm trying to hold off too much white is when it comes in its most potent state, in its most pure state, I just want it to not have too much competition with too many pale soft tints all over the place. I forgot to put her arms in. Just trying to create that flesh color again. And just right, light blue around this guy. So trying to fill it all in. And once I've done that, I'll start to make inroads into what would really be finishing marks to really draw shapes out. And what slows it up a little bit is maybe how much drawing I need to do to make it look like a coherent piece of work. Right, we'll do that because it's that's this bucket. It's kind of blue, but there's this lovely sandy color. But we'll just block the blue in first. We'll make it go a bit darker. And again, just very matter of fact. Right, so we don't want that light coming through. And it's going to be dark inside. So I'm not too conscious about making it round because I'm going to use a background for some of these issues. Okay, there's a shadow. We could do that, and then we can actually go for some really strong lights. Probably do the put some color in for his trousers next, and then we're going to lighten them considerably. And just put, so occasionally maybe just drag it up a little bit further. This is slightly different. It's kind of blue with a bit more chalky color in it. And yeah, his t-shirt's lighter, so we'll get to that. Yeah, so I've got some nice mucky colors. It's kind of the remnants from the gray that's now being polluted by me dipping in with other colors. And it produces some quite nice kind of complementaries, or two complementaries mixing to create some nice kind of grays. Okay, I'm just seeing if I can utilize anything there. That's got to be a light blue. So if I get a light blue there, I can put a light blue there. There. Okay, we could just put something there. Right, it's probably a bit too, I'm very tempted to use, no, we'll use a clean one. It's kind of, yeah, that's still in shadow, so it's gonna be a light blue. So just a reminder, the photo looks nothing like the thing, which obviously it shouldn't do. The moment I start making it look like that, it's all downhill. Simply because my brain will just switch to autopilot. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's there's definitely a kind of palpable sense of excitement rather than butterflies with regard to first stage while you're discovering. The moment you start toying and drawing, it's going to just become just hopefully just pulling out the detail and making it look like a functioning painting. Just some of that. I'll put the blue in for the water. This blue will double up for her top. All of this will go lighter. Okay, so the sky is going to be flat. I'll use this. So this is where I do need almost a generic, so white. This is turquoise green. It's actually quite nice with some cyan. Just probably could do the water first and then the sky because it's just gone a bit darker. A bit more purple. Maybe that part first. Just wanted to put the orange back in. Yeah, quite a strong blue that. So just need to almost knock it off a little bit. Okay, just back to dark. I know, I should have done the sky first and then the water and then put the boats on top. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, so traditionally that's what you do. You work from the back, working your way forward, but yeah, we don't, yeah, that's not in my roster of techniques. Okay, so the sky itself is fairly light. I'm just gonna really blitz that. Probably way too magenta-y, sorry, turquoise. But that's fine. Sorry, my partner just sneezed. That's normally how I wake her up in the morning, sneezing, because we've got a cat who has decided to sleep with us. Okay. Right, so it's relatively flat. What I'll do is just paint around that later. Okay. Light blue there. I'm going to do maybe another 5 minutes and then we could have a bit of a 5-minute break. I can just clean up my bits before we resume again. So I'll just, so I was, when I do a painting, I always think, let's cover it all. And then the second half is always about, yeah, let's now just pick out stuff. Again, just think if there's anything I can do, put a color there. That's going to be light. Okay, let's put the yellow in. So 2-inch. Obviously, it's not going to be yellow. It's going to be that dirty yellow. Cadmium. Well, it's not cadmium. It's a permanent yellow medium. Bit of orange. It's not, yeah, it's kind of the, this color, but it's going to be fairly strong. So it's fairly weighty on the brush, just because I want to make an impact with it. Again, just very, so it's going to be lighter in some places. And I can almost put the odd little crease in. I'll just put a bit of green in the yellow, I just fancy varying it. Funny thing about a Zoom demo, you never know. I never know what you're thinking. Maybe I don't want to know. Okay, so yeah, there's two creases there, but rather than just do the two, I'll do one, and then I'll separate it with a stronger yellow. Okay, while I got the yellow, yeah, it's actually got braces on. We're going to zoom around the ground with a yellowy, again, yellow ochre with my yellow, bit of blue, bit of that, bit of orange, yellow ochre, bit of burnt sienna, and a bit of ultramarine violet. It's kind of slightly, okay, so it's going to go, I've got two mixing trays. So it's this one's, that's my other mixing tray, so it's that color. Right, so it's going to go on next to the bucket and then around this figure. In fact, just skim. So this is a previous color, probably from that, which is just giving me a bit of a bluey bias, just a touch more white. So got to be really cautious of the white. I like that yellow. Maybe that was a bit too strong. It's going to go lighter than this, by the way. This is again a kind of, it's probably the second layer, if you like, and then it's going to, the final layer is obviously going to be peppered with strong light. So all of this, I'm kind of just skimming it so I can utilize what I've started with. So I can also shape these things a little bit better. Don't want it too yellow. Don't want it too blue either. Just need to create more mud. Just while I've got this color, just wanted to put an edge to that. And then again, yeah, so this light kind of goes to about there, and then the shingle, I guess the shingle takes over. But again, I don't, so that's very sharp. Might just drag some of that off. Like that, and just, okay, this can double up for light. Again, this is going to go lighter. It's all building up to a very strong light. This can go lighter in here. And okay, we've got some, yeah, you know what, we'll use this color here as well. and just could be a bit bluer or lighter. It's probably gone lighter than I wanted it to for now, but I think I'll stick with that. It will save me. Whether that jumps up at the moment, eventually that's going to come through a lot stronger. So I'm happy with that for the time being. Just wanted to provide a little bit of detail there. Okay, and right, this guy's hair. Just a bit more tinge of yellow on this side. So obviously at this stage, I'm still, I mean, hopefully it's definitive, but it will come out a lot stronger. This is merely just me toying with it till I decide it's going to be more impactful. I'll just lighten this part a little bit more. And his hair, again, just utilizing some color. In fact, I can use, again, just seeing what I've got on my mixing tray in terms of the muddy component colors. So there's some nice shapes, which I shall definitely carve out. Part of the problem is if it's looks too obvious, it's going to look forced. So it's going to look forced at the moment, but then I'll just sort it out a little bit more, like that. So this is going to be light, just to bring out that shape. Nice little gap of shadow and light. A little bit more distance between them. Yeah, so obviously faces and stuff like that, that's all like, that's just finishing touches for me, because I don't want to get involved now. Some gaps here, just fill them up. This is a focal point, so he's gonna, in the second half, I'll just spend a little bit more time, obviously, just pulling him out. And just the bench, that's going to be lighter. And again, all of this stuff will come through a lot stronger in part two. Just while I've got this color. And get the framework in. Yeah, something like that. Actually, that comes up a lot higher. Yeah, so gonna make some things a lot more sharp in the second half, but hopefully at this stage it's starting to emerge, and hopefully you'll get a better idea. Just turn it straighter. Yeah, I've used a palette knife just to skim mainly the yellows, I suppose, because they get corrupt the most. And yeah, so going to go for, and I've got 1/2 inch, lots of lemon yellow and some white. Maybe we'll put a little bit of turquoise in it as well, just something fairly potent, that's light, because we want to start coaxing the the strong lights out. That's very strong. So what I'm hoping to do is do some marks which are going to be maybe slightly more width to the brush, and then a couple of little delicate little lines. Obviously, when you first put them in, they look incredibly stark, but as more and more lights go in, they'll just sit back. And I'm assuming, like, that's obviously, yeah, I'm going to have to correct that. So I'm leaving something of what I started with at the first stage, and just creating this sense of depth with these strong lights. You've kind of got to have a little bit of faith that eventually all the paraphernalia of these little marks will kind of create these little pinpoints of interest. I always leave the really strong white. It's normally white and lemon yellow till the very end. Okay, so we've got some light blue. So basically, I start off with white, lemon yellow, and there's a bit of turquoise green, and then I'll add bits and pieces into it. But there's a lot more white dominating, and it will hopefully sit well against the more muted or brighter colors that I started with. And I'll also, to some extent, spend some time, a little bit of time anyway, just making sure the drawing fits. The only thing I would say, when you paint like this, inevitably you get quite attached to some of the mark making. So you don't really want too much disruption by just covering everything. So you are hopefully looking to, or I'll certainly be looking to hold on to some of the marks. Okay, so this edge here needs to be just teased out a little bit. Yeah, so yeah, there's actually another container behind. Not going to make too much of this. And there's obviously lots of little bits of rope there. Again, don't really want to do too much there. Just move along fairly quickly. Light blue here. And just to let you know, I currently have, I'm exhibiting a couple of places. There's some exhibitions coming up later in the year, but I'm currently showing some work at David Shepherd Artist of the Year. That's online. I've got a piece in the new English Art Club. That's at the Mel Galleries currently. I will be exhibiting with, it's a new exhibition. I think it's called Figurative Art Now at Mel Galleries. That's in July, I think. My partner Marie will put links, I'm sure she's got them all ready, for these things in the chat room if you're interested. Yeah, I write for the artists and illustrators as well. So I've got literally an article a month coming out now till probably Christmas on acrylic painting. So if you're interested in acrylic painting, there's articles there. One thing I am doing in Oxshott, which I think is the closest venue to you guys, I'm doing like a one-off acrylic workshop in on Friday the 17th of September. So if you're interested, just again, Marie will maybe put some details of that. I should put the link in the chat room. So if you fancy chucking some paint around with big brushes, then you know where to come. So some of this does dry pretty quick. Like that's still wet because that's a really big chunk of paint. So because acrylics are water-based, if I were to layer this and layer it like oil paintings, it's going to go very, very dull. So it's why I go in quite firm at the start, just to really make really definitive inroads into, you know, color and shapes. And then I can just do a bit of this teasing out of the detail. So yeah, the whole thing really has got to be quite, hopefully quite painless, and you're not looking to fiddle and fuss too much. I'm being a bit more careful of, obviously, with regards, maybe pulling out some of these detailed bits. I am recording this, so it will go on my YouTube channel, which is my name. Yeah, if you just Google in my name, YouTube, it will go up at some point, possibly this week. Okay, just moving along. Yeah, so normally when I've been doing demos, I've kind of really rushed these bits because I find them maybe the least interesting, if you like, because it's really just to showcase the drawing side. It's definitely important for, like, when I do kind of commissions and stuff like that, the level of finish. But the first bit is where the action lies, as far as I'm concerned. This is very much just being articulate with technique. There's I've only just found, actually, it's an online thing. It's a website. You have to pay a fair bit of subscription for it. It's called Masterclass, and basically, I'm sure some of you probably heard of it. It's really like people on the top of their game in various fields of all sorts, like presenting, writing. They've got Malcolm Gladwell, loads, James Cameron, and yeah, basically it's incredibly talented people going through their craft. And I was watching Aaron Sorkin yesterday, and so much of it resonated with the arts, because he was saying about, well, if you're just going to copy something, then you might as well just stick with the original. But if you're trying to be creative about it, you are looking to do something, anything, just to make it your own, just put your statement in it. It's just, yeah, I found it, I mean, the classes are over 2 hours long, where they just go into fairly in-depth analysis about, you know, certain things. We saw one on a interior designer called Kelly Wesley, yeah, something like that. And incredible. I mean, what some people do is just really amazing. Anyway, back to my mediocre efforts. So yeah, kind of blocking in these highlights, and they're done very matter-of-factly with obviously this square brush, flat brush. It's really so I don't overdo it to start with. Not that I'm going to spend all night doing this, but it's just so I can make statements, and I know I've made some kind of statement, and then I'll move on fairly quickly. I'm going to bring him out. I'm going to do some stuff obviously in the background, but I'll speed through this because, in fact, I might just lighten that up first because I've just noticed. So basically, I'm looking for these kind of colors, but with a bit more white, just so when I apply it, I get this very concise looking mark. And there's lovely steps there, so keen to do that. I'm sure there was loads of other things I should be saying, but yeah, just I've become so interested in just staying in the studio rather than all the traveling we've been doing, we had been doing over the years. So painting has become really the forefront. Okay, okay, that's got to be light. It's got to be light to draw this guy out. So we'll look for some of this now. Just got to be a bit careful. If I was doing this properly, there would be a certain amount of care given to these stages, because I would want just to absolutely not take away from what I've already put on, but just enhancement to these details. Just do enough, because I don't really want them, like I say, just pasting over everything I've started with. Okay, just drag that out. So that shadow was quite a nice shadow to develop. Going to work on the figure next, because that's the main thing. Yeah, all these figures. So clean brush. It's already damp, so just need loads of lemon yellow. And I'm going to use some of the yellow medium as well with white. And just want to pull out these creases. I mean, I really like these trousers are amazing. So just putting in the lighter bits first, and then I'm going to adapt it with something in between. So absolutely want this to pop. It's one of the things about painting, you need to maintain your confidence throughout, which is why sometimes people start off confident, and then they kind of get the mindset of just being comfortable. But this kind of painting, you need to be on your guard, because you can so easily just start painting over everything and just looking at all the detail. But these are very concise shapes I'm trying to look for. It's almost like a study in this material. It's something I noticed when I was still drawing realistically, but just have one or two areas of really heightened interest. Don't sledgehammer the whole shebang. It just takes so long to understand it, that's the only thing. Because I never was taught it at university or college. Right, so I almost don't have to worry about the rest of the leg, because that patterning is potent enough for me not to worry too much. Maybe, yeah, again, it's a time constraint more than anything. What I might do is just add a little bit of light in here. Okay, so we want to do the same thing with the shirt. So the reason why I don't, at the beginning, it doesn't go too muddy is because the color's always been dominated. So even though it looks like I'm putting in loads of color, there's always an overriding color which absolutely dominates everything. So if you had equal amounts, it will start to go, obviously they'll start conflicting. Okay, so very strong light, really crisp that up. It's one of the understandings of using photos. You just know it's just not strong enough. So you've got to cater for real life where you can really see a lot more. So when I used to do detail, I used to do that, mash it in. But yeah, I like definitely one go. And we'll just find there's a subtler. Okay, so he's got these yeah, there's a couple of dark lines here. So I'm just concentrating. Yeah, so this part of the shirt is very light. And there's a couple of creases. And yeah, so I almost don't want to draw the braces, just put dark lines in. So just wonder if I can just leave the green. Just can't be too much. Okay, have to put some dark lines in now. Okay, and that there. Maybe just on one side. Okay, so I've still got some dark on my palette from the first go, and yeah, I can just accentuate. So obviously I don't want to use a really strong potent dark, so almost just that will do. So I don't need to do the rest because the green's doing it for me. So I've just saved myself a little bit of time. So just got a light on the hair. Just wondering if I can use the screen anywhere else. Probably not. Right, I will just transition the screen into a little bit more in the way of ochre. I just wanted to, it's quite intense doing that. So I just wanted to lay down a couple of marks, which will just relax my brain, that one little brain cell that does all the work. I invested in something called Alexa, which is basically a voice activated little ball that plays music for you if you ask it to, and can tell you naughty jokes. And my partner Marie said, "Oh, why are you getting that? It's such a, what a waste of time." And it was in a sale because Amazon were doing a sale. And I can't get enough of it. I ask her all kinds of questions. I now know the capital of Moldova and several other countries I'm never going to visit, but I just feel slightly more clever. Okay, so we'll lighten his hair. I'll do that next because that's a delicate little operation. So lots of white, some lemon yellow. So initially it's just, yeah, so I've got to find the size of his hair or head. So initially I did it too big, slightly too big, but I always prefer to go slightly larger than smaller, like there. And okay, so while I got this light, we are now going to pop these other bits. So her leg and her flesh. So I just put some orange into this color, and it's just going to give me a little bit to play with. Just there's a little bit of light there on this guy's forehead, bit of light. I always like pulling out his little nose, something like that. He's laid back. That's what he's doing. He's just kind of soaking up the sun. I can just see the edge of this guy's face. This is delicate, and always best to, once you've done something, just leave it alone. Okay, so those are the main things. Going to lighten up. I can breathe now. Just lighten up around things. So that's the palette of color that's been mixed. And really, all I'm looking to do is just to meld. So that light where the plank of wood comes in, it starts to meld in with the background a bit. And it will just make things look a little bit more solid. So where it was grainy, I can now make it that little bit more fuller. Obviously, I'm still keeping a lot of what I started with. So that's very grainy, but it's the outside edge that looks slightly fuller. I always think you got to be careful not to just douse color in white. So I'm still making sure the yellow is quite prevalent in this. Just drag some of this out. It might be worth going back into that shingle and doing something there. I'll see how time goes. I'm not going to go mad on this. I always think demos are to showcase really what you do. So that's a nice shape. Again, it's kind of just compacts everything. I got sucked into abstract art for a little while. I think it did wonders for me, because when I came out, I had a much better appreciation for abstract art, knowing that I can't do it, although some of these things are abstract. But yeah, I definitely got locked in a little bit and I couldn't get out. Right, so okay, and right, so we'll just quickly. So yeah, a lot of this don't need to do anything with. It's all done for me by the illusion, I hope. Okay, so the other thing which may just in the last few minutes, I'll toy with this, some strong darks. Okay, so I've got my strong lights, which create this hopefully very warm, sunny feel. But the strong darks will anchor some of these shapes a little bit more. Again, the danger is, you know, you've been kind of constructive with color, and then you start using black and white. So just make sure I keep some of this. Just drag that there. Just got to make this bench a little bit more structurally sound. Yeah, she's got a cup of coffee there. I would normally like to put that in because I like little touches like that, but I don't think I'll have time. All right. Yeah, just a bit of color there. It's tricky because I've got the computer here, so I'm kind of slightly painting blind on this side. I'm hoping it looks okay. When you got trendy to be slightly more looser, if you like, or a bit more expressive, you can just let things just pale off. I'll just make that a bit more solid. Okay, just gonna do a little bit there, a couple of darks, and we're done. And so just crisp up this edge where the window is. Okay, so I'm now going to paint every single rock I can see. No, I'm not. Yeah, so basically with this kind of texture, I've already got texture from the marks I've laid down. I'm going to do a few marks just to illustrate the point, but I'm not going to sledgehammer them. Normally what happens is if I get bored, then that's the time to not do any more. So yeah, we've got a bit of a window. Again, I'm slightly hampered, so I won't go mad there. Yeah, so what we'll do is just find a couple of little shapes. This guy's hair is just slightly lighter there. He's wearing sunglasses, or he was till I took them off. So yeah, years ago I would have drawn every single rock, but we don't need to do that because I think this is the focus, so we don't need to showcase all of these things. Just a couple of little breaks. It might be, I'll put some light in. Just put a couple of darks. And the darks can just double up to secure his profile a little bit more. A couple of darks there. And actually, yeah, this lady's hair. Yeah, sometimes that's all you need to do, almost put this light that's just shaping. Very clumsy. Okay, so just over here, a couple of lights there. I did want to just do a little bit at the back, just a couple of darks, and then we'll be done. So a couple of marks there. Yeah, so if I wanted to show the edge, maybe just something of a line. I don't think it's important. So the older I get, the more I think, am I not doing it because I'm lazy or because I'm incredibly insightful to not put that in? Yeah, so the moment you take your eye off the ball, you start perpetrating those generic crimes. What I mean by that, you stop concentrating, you start just producing the same mark. So stop that. Yeah, I should have spent a little bit more time on the boats. I'll do a little bit. Now, obviously, under normal circumstance, you'd put some seagulls, but I never, ever entertain any seagulls because everyone else does. It's almost like seagulls and you sign it. But yeah, we don't, well, I don't. Right, yeah, so there's a couple of little darks just in here. Yeah, so I can't quite make out too much about these things that I'm looking at. That's, yeah, rigging is the other thing. Just a couple of darks, nearly done. And right, that's dark in there. And that there. Yeah, so that I could, yeah, so normally at the end, you can pop color as well. So we can allow for some of this orange to sing. So I'll put the mark on first and I can just, I guess the story is about him and the boat. So if we imagine that's the case, then just highlight this a little bit. Yeah, just got to be careful not to go mad. Just And just these things. Oh, you just end up seeing more and more, don't you? But and just over here. And holding 3 brushes. Yeah, so just cornering, edging that shape a little bit more. This guy, just bring his profile out. And just where his shirt is. I think I'll stop there only because just very tempted. But one thing I would say, so darks, you could do the same thing with this, where you just pull out just a couple of dark edges here and there. Yeah, if I start this, I'm going to off balance the whole thing. So I'm not going to do too much. There's something around there that could be brought out there. Yeah, anyway, I hope that kind of gives you a vague idea. Hopefully it doesn't put you off using acrylics, but it's really enjoyable, especially the first stage where you just dive in and you can create so much carnage with color and marks, and then you can refine it and play with it and just bring it out as much as you want, but hopefully still leaving some of those early flurries. Yeah, so I'll stop there. If you want to unmute yourself, that'd be fine. If you've got